Hello everyone and welcome to Wibu-Systems' new webinar, High Availability for License Creation, the Technical and Human Factors. Each month, join us for new powerful messages, technical tips and success stories that will leave you inspired and ready to get your protection, licensing and security techniques another step closer to perfection. Today, our hosts are Wolfgang Völker, Director Support and Product Management at Wibu-Systems, and Daniel Züchner, Consulting and Professional Services at Wibu-Systems. Wolfgang has been working for Wibu-Systems since 2002, where he leads both the product management and the support teams. Through his extensive consulting activities, he has acquired a deep knowledge in many programming languages and development environments, such as C, C++, Java, and C#. In his role, his main focus is offering an ever-increasing professional and reliable experience with CodeMeter, the all-in-one solution for protection, licensing, and security needs. After training as a specialist in system integration for an established provider of online games, Daniel joined Wibu-Systems in 2014, where he has worked with the technical support team in the context of license management. One of his specialties is answering questions about CodeMeter License Central. He supports both customers running the systems at their premises, as well as Wibu-Systems operating service customers who are having their CodeMeter License Central hosted at Wibu-Systems. Today, we are going to talk about all the different options we make available for the hosting of your CodeMeter License Central with our Wibu operating services, from the simple and cost-effective Data Center Edition to the high-performance and high-availability services. This session is being recorded, and a link to the replay will be posted directly to you in a couple of days. You are all muted, but you can post your questions in the live chat room. We will answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. And now, let's get started.
Hello and welcome. My name is Daniel Züchner. I'm part of the Wibu Operating Services team. Today I'm attending to the webinar about high availability for license creation.
A warm welcome also from me. My name is Wolfgang Völker and we are happy to have you online to listen to this hopefully interesting webinar. Well, you may know Wibu as someone that is doing protection, doing licensing, doing security for your products, for your licensing, but we are also providing services. And today we want to learn what kind of services we offer due to the licensing using CodeMeter License Central. So at first we will have a short overview about the License Central itself. The process of working with License Central works like this. The independent software vendor, the ISV, wants to sell something. So he sells his item, his stock keeping unit, whatever, using CodeMeter License Central, and he gets back a ticket. That's something like a voucher code, like a Windows registration code. This ticket now is sent to the user, and the user now takes this ticket to the depot, also together with the context of his container, with the binding of his system, and then he will get back the license. So as you can see here, the CodeMeter License Central has some connectivity. On one hand, on the left side, the ISV needs to do something. On the right side, the user wants to do something. So on the left side, we have had the sales system. You can do this, of course, manually by typing in the web front end your order and your customer number and selecting the item you want to sell. But of course, you will do this more automatically. For example, if you have an online shop or your own system that does the selling and all the customer relationship. Such systems are connected to CodeMeter License Central via the so-called connector. So this is a kind of translator that receives the order from the ERP or the CRM system in the language, in an order, in a language that these systems support. And then the connector translates it into the language that the CodeMeter License Central understands. And so we have this interfaces, this connector that you need. Maybe you can use standard connectors, or sometimes this needs to be adapted a little bit to work very fine with your sales systems. On the right hand, we have seen the activation by the user. Well, also this could be done manually. You could request remote context files from your user, and then you can go to the web front end and activate this with remote activation and send him the update file. But this is a boring task and needs some time and is not online. Yeah? So the better way is to implement it either in the software with a so-called software activation, maybe our software activation wizard, which then connects to the gateway. And the gateway gets the ticket number and the context of the files, which could be automatically created in the activation wizard. And then this is sent to the depot interface of the License Central, and you will get back the activated license if everything matches. Besides this integrated and automatic activation, you can also, or additionally, use the browser for browser-based activation using the web depot. In this web depot, you enter your ticket number, and then you get the list of the licenses that are available for you, and then you can select and activate these licenses. There are some other possibilities of doing some connectivity, maybe to customized applications, having additional data that needs to be stored somewhere in a database. And here we see an overview about some connectivity possibilities. And we will see what requirements the different customers have, and then what we need for our services. Well, so this is the overview about how the CodeMeter License Central works and what kind of connectivity and interfaces we need, and we want now to see what editions we have for hosting.
So basically, in the first step, we have to ask the customer about his requirements. So in the first step, we have to see what kind of activations he do per day. Is it an average amount, a high amount, or even a less amount? This will be integrated in the choice of the available edition. Also, if the customer or ISV requires maybe customized applications, for example, a web service or self-coded connector that have to be implemented in his software and also on the CodeMeter License Central. And these are some options that also depends on the choice of the right edition or available package of the CodeMeter License Central. In the next step, there's a short overview of the available editions. On the left-hand side, these are the versions of the CodeMeter License Central that you can host by yourself if you have purchased the CodeMeter License Central. Basically, the Internet Edition is a basic part of the versions that is hosted by Wibu-Systems itself and the WAPs. there we got the data center edition and also the dedicated server version. The next step is the high performance edition and the high availability package. These are the packages that are available from Wibu-Systems hosting service. All the hosted editions by Wibu-Systems contains the web depot, the browser-based activation of licenses. That means it is integrated in most of the CodeMeter License Central versions, excluding the desktop edition that's got only an integrated web depot. There you can just automate activate a license or direct the customer ticket ID that you have to put in to activate his license. Also, this can be adjusted for your corporate design. There are customization options that you could use. There's no problem in doing that. Also, we are providing gateways. These are secured by, for example, HTTPS with a client certificate, and that could also be used to activate a license, for example. The next step, we got the connectors that could be provided from our side, for example, to link your online shop system or maybe some ERP systems with the standard connectors. And this access is also protected by an HTTPS client certificate or is needed from the basic authentication. The first package, the Data Center Edition, is scaled to 50 activations per day, just a little number. There are several ISVs on the same virtual machine separated as an instance on the same virtual machine. The database is separated with an external login for every ISV, and also the web server instance and the application server instance are separated from each other ISV instance, so there's no direct contact from the data from another ISV to your data, for example. On the other hand, the dedicated server package, it is scaled to 100 activations per day. It is an own virtual machine with guaranteed CPU and RAM resource for the CodeMeter License Central. This also includes the web services that can be accessed on demand. Also, this contains a direct access from the outside to the CodeMeter License Central web service itself. It is protected, for example, by the client certificate communication via HTTPS. For an example, you could connect your selling application via web service to the CodeMeter License Central. In addition, you could also use your customized application or customer management and get this connected to the CodeMeter License Central via the web services. The next part will be doing Mr. Völker.
Okay, so these two editions, the Data Center Edition and the Dedicated Server Edition, are available since a few years in the Wibu operating services. We have new in 2015 the High Performance Edition. The High Performance Edition serves up to 1,000 activations per day. It is a dedicated server, the same as the dedicated server, but has additionally a separate FSB server with an associated FSB, so you are no longer sharing the FSB or the access to the FSB with other ISVs, and therefore we can ensure that you really can do this number of activations per day. For the high availability package, which is the highest package we currently have, we ensure about 2,000 activations per day. this is a combination of two high-performance editions with a load balancing mechanism. So incoming requests are balanced, are sent to the first or the second server, and each of these have also an own FSB server and an own FSB. So in this case you have also two FSBs to have enough capability to serve all the activation requests. Of course you have only one database. The data should be consistent, and so this is performed as a database cluster, and having this package we can now ensure that we have a really high availability of the system. We can switch over in case of maintenance of operating system. For example, we can switch over to only one system, and then this is already served. All requests are served, and we can update the first server and activate this later on the second server. So these are the four packages. We have the four editions, and well, if you decide not to host such a CodeMeter License Central by your own, with having all the things that you need to think about, then this is a good idea, but we want to talk about the security requirements we have, and that also how we have solved this on our side in the hosting services. In the infrastructure, we have set up different zones separated by firewall rules. So the first zone is the reverse proxy, so everything is coming at first to this system, which is also a redundant load balanced system. And after having maybe the authentication for ISV calls, or checking that this is just an activation call from the user, which goes to activation pages, then this call is forwarded to the License Central server itself in the second zone. And the License Central server then has connectivity to the database server, which is in a third zone. So this is all separated. So if someone might get in the first zone to execute something with whatever for an attack, then he should not be possible to get some data out of the database server due to the firewall rules. So he needs to go one step after the other, and this should not be possible. The first zone is the FSB server zone, where the FSBs are located and the different FSB servers. So this is also separated. For the data security, we have separate databases. Of course, we have different accounts for the different instances of License Central. So everything is divided well into different parts. We are doing individual backups for each database, and this is not mixed up in a big database. This is separated in several databases. We make some protection on the access, so all accesses that are only used by the ISV are protected. So the web front end, where you set up your items, where you look about the reports, what has been activated, when did this one catch his license, all these things where you can authorize additional activations. This is available only via HTTPS, and during setting up the CodeMeter License Central in the hosting, we create a client certificate for HTTPS, And this in-house client certificate you install on all the systems of your users that need to work with the web front end from their systems. And this client certificate allows the users to come to the login page. And then the user, the staff member of your company, needs to log in with his credentials. So the client certificate does not replace the login page. It is an additional security option that we use here to avoid people in trying to get to enter a lot of combinations of user and passwords. Another access that is only done by the ISV is the access to web services and also to the connectors. They are also secured by client certificates if possible. If this is not possible because maybe the online shop does not support to store a client certificate there and to use this for HTTPS communication, then we can switch down to basic authentication. And if this is also not possible, in some rare cases this is also the case, then we have the option to do a check of the allowed IP address. So there are several chances to secure this because the access to web services and especially to the connectors should be protected in a way that not someone can send an order without paying for this. So this access protection is for all accesses that are used only by the ISV. All other accesses like access to web depot, like access to gateways, is done without any authentication. For this you can do HTTP, HTTPS without any client certificate. Everyone can do this from every system of the world. Of course, he needs to know the ticket number to get some license for this. Another point is to do some monitoring to see if there is someone taking a look at or is trying to do some attacks, for example, trying to read out some things, some files from our system, and we check this regularly in the log files. We try to detect patterns in there if there is someone not using this as served, but for any other purpose like looking for some files that are not part of License Central and so on. In such cases we block these suspicious addresses and hopefully get rid of such people and can ensure good service for our ISVs and our customers. Well, in the data center, of course, the data is stored on RAID 5 hard disks, and so the data should not be lost in any case. Nevertheless, it's good to have backups, and so we do an automatic daily backup, an incremental backup of the databases, and once a week we store a full backup, and this is placed at a different location. So also in case of having too much fire in the data center, whatever, then we have the possibility to have an older version of the database in a secure location.
And the next part is about the data center, which the Wibu Operating Services is now using. The infrastructure is located from Technik Data Group in Germany near Stuttgart. The building is separated by 5 different areas, each with a different power supply, air conditioning and fire protection. So if one part of the area is affected by a fire, there's still not the other parts affected itself, so they can run as separated. The building itself got its own transformer station, so there's several backup power supply to shut down the servers normally, so there's no outage and maybe a data loss. The building also got 2 different WAN connections to the internet itself. So if maybe one internet connection breaks down, there's still another backup line they can use to access the servers, so the customer is able to receive his license. Also, this hoster is ISO certified 27001. The next part is the scope of service. The provision of the system resources is separated as a virtual machine. There's the same separating from the different zones by the firewall as used by Wibu-Systems, so there's no direct access to, for example, the database. To further increase the accessibility of the FSB and also the FSB server, there's a physical unit directly in the data center. For example, this depends on the packages you have booked, maybe your own FSB for your license central package, and this FSB also contains your private key, so there's no VPN used that might delay the connection or maybe the licensing itself. Now we are coming to the system maintenance of the virtual machines, or also the license centrals. There's an automatic process to install the latest security patches that are provided from the operating system vendors. We are also doing installations of updates if needed, or maybe patches for the web servers and also application servers. This also is only being done after functional testing by a separated server if the new patch works out with the CodeMeter License Central and the modifications. For example, there are Apache web server fixes, or maybe the Tommy application got a memory leak that could be fixed by a short patch. And these are the situations we are first testing and then applying to the systems. Also, the update of the database itself is part of this maintenance. We're also doing CodeMeter License Central updates. This always depends on the coordination with the ISV and also a schedule when this update could be done. This is, for example, an update from an older version of the CodeMeter License Central to the latest version, but also installing the newest patch from, for example, 2.10 to 2.1b from the CodeMeter License Central version. These are just little steps and can be coordinated very quickly, and this will be done from the Wibu operating services team. Also, there's a direct access, an extra email address from the WOP staff, wops@wibu.com, and the WOPS team got a direct access to the servers to manage your service requests as fast as possible. On the other hand, we got the monitoring itself. There are different parts of the monitoring and also the components that are being monitored. On the first hand, there's the virtual machine itself. It is monitored if the machine is running, if the machine is able to get a connection, for example, via SSH. Also, the application server and the web server are being monitored. For example, is connect to the Apache possible? Is the application server, the Tommy, running, or are there outages that have to be fixed from our side? If this is the case, the web staff will get alerted and have to react on time to fix this issue. Also, the FSB counter from the unit counter is monitored by our systems. There's a daily check of an beforehand configured value, and if this is unrun, you will receive an automatic generated email that informs you that you may be running out of unit counters. The next step is on the service levels.
So the question is, of course, also what services do we really provide, what are the operating hours and so on. So of course the servers are operated 7 days, 24 hours. We have a maintenance window every Tuesday, Central European summer time, at 8 o'clock. Well, this is used to do some minor maintenance work, for example, restart of some services that are necessary due to some changes, but we need this only very rarely. So normally also on Tuesday morning the service is available with full functionality. If the service is interrupted for a few minutes, then all the users and all the applications get an error 503, so server is currently not available, and then afterwards you get back your service immediately. Additionally, there is an infrastructure maintenance of the data center itself that might be up to 6 times a year. This is done in times with low traffic, at the weekends, maybe also at the nights of the weekend, and this is of course pre-announced, and so we will notify you if this is the case and our services are interrupted for some time. So this is on system level that we have the availability of 99.5% up to 99.9% for the high availability package. There we have automatic alerts to the WOP staff so that we will take care of your alerts of the system as soon as possible, and you will get back the system shortly after the alert. On application level, so if you have some requests about there's a license could not be activated, a license has been activated but I don't find this in my reporting, whatever, something like this, then the response time as defined in Wibu-Systems support contracts is used, or is, we are answering within these response times. So if you have ordered a support contract silver or gold level, then you get an answer with hopefully a solution or a workaround depending on the error class in 1, 2, 4 or 8 hours, depending, as said, on the error class. So we now have seen an overview about the provided versions that we have. So we have the database version, the data center edition, where we have up to 50 activations per day. So there you have one system which is shared for several ISVs. We have a system availability of 99.5%. This is an entry edition which serves, is okay for a lot of ISVs, that if you have 50 activations per day, This is in some, over the year you may have nearly up to 20,000 activations. So there is, you can sell a lot of licenses within this package. The next is the dedicated server edition, up to 100 activations per day, also one line where you additionally can use the web services, where you can place additional pieces of written software, maybe by our professional services team, maybe by your own, for doing additional services, for storing additional data from the activation process that is needed for you. We have customers that are running a small individual licensing portal on this system. Well, several options and possibilities. Here we also have the system availability of 99.5%. The new high performance edition serves up to 1,000 activations per day and has, compared to the dedicated server, an extra FSP server, an own one for you and an own FSP for you, so that you need not to wait until other activation requests have passed the FSP server. There we have also the same system availability of 99.5%, and in the high availability package, which serves up to 2,000 activations per day, we have two parallel lines with load balancing, having each all the application and web servers, and having two FSP servers, each having an own FSP, so that you have a redundant system, and also not only high availability, you have also the chance to run more activations than in the high performance edition due to these two lines. Then we have a system availability of 99.9%, and so this is currently the highest package we have, and you now may decide which edition or package is the best for you if you are interested. I think you have seen that there are a lot of things done for the fee that we get for hosting your License Central. You have different options on editions, what you can choose, and we take care that this system runs reliable all around the clock, and you can concentrate on your selling, your programming, whatever, and we take care of distributing your licenses to your users. Well, we hope you enjoyed this overview and you got new information from this, and we want to thank you for having time for us on this last day of March. We are now open in the chat for some questions, so we will take some of the questions here and answer them live. So there's one question, the first one: is there a direct access to the virtual machine possible?
So I will be answering this question. The customer or ISV didn't receive any direct access to the virtual machine or CodeMeter License Central itself. For example, if you host it on your site or by yourself, you're able to connect via the port 1 and 4x0 as a webmin. This is basically by a hosted License Central not possible due to security reasons or general making a possible security outage. Every option or operation that is being needed to be done directly will be done from the Wibu operating services team itself.
Okay, thank you for answering this question. Another question, is there a Sandbox server we can use for demonstration and development purposes? Well, we are running some license centrals in the hosting that can be used for checking the service, for getting an account on one of the demo versions that is then shared for several ISVs. Just to play around with this, you can ask your sales person at Wibu, they may give you such an account. Additionally, you always have the possibility to download the CodeMeter License Central software from our website. You can check out this with the desktop version, where you have the functionality in general, of course. So if you want to test the product CodeMeter License Central, how is the ordering working, how is the configuration of items, what can I see in the reports, you can do this by installing this as a virtual machine on your side. But of course you can also use our CodeMeter License Central demos that we are hosting here, but don't enter some private data, because other ISV also can look at this. Additionally, there is one CodeMeter License Central that is mentioned in the CodeMeter Quick Start Guide. There, if you have a look at the CodeMeter Quick Start Guide in the section for working with CM Act licenses, there you have a link where you can use the web depot to create a CM Act license on your system, and another page before that is doing the ordering of such a demo license for this. So, for example, this is also that's something that everyone can test right now. So, other questions we have. Why is there no security mechanism during ticket handling, like HTTPS? So yeah, this is an interesting point. So the web depot is using HTTP. This is currently caused by the mechanism that we use for doing the activation on the system itself. If you are joining us for several months or years, you may have seen that we previously have done the activation with License Central based on ActiveX and Java, and we more and more get problems with these activations, because we need to establish a connection from the system, from access to a hardware device or to system service from within the browser. And that is something that every bad guy would like to do, and therefore they are closing more and more every chance to have a communication where you can get something from a server and store or transfer this to the system itself. And we have switched over to use WebSockets. Currently we are using mainly WebSockets for the activation on the client side, and this WebSocket protocol also has some security monitoring on this, and therefore we cannot use on the server side HTTPS, and on the client side then an HTTP call to the CodeMeter runtime. Therefore, currently all the calls need to be in HTTP. But we think that is not a big problem. depending on how you handle this ticket number. This ticket number is something like a one-time voucher, and so if you have got your license and then it is no longer needed. So if someone else gets this ticket number, which might not be easy, but if he gets it, then he might not find any activatable license for this. But we in general have this, this as an open point, but we are also not happy that there is not really a good technology to allow us to do this transfer, but this is a technical restriction we currently have, and we check what we can do there in the future to make this better. So let's have a look for another question. Can these services host licenses or just activations? That's not clear to me, so yeah, not sure what about. So there's one other question where someone asks to assign a license to a serial number. This is a new feature of CodeMeter License Central 2.10, where you can assign a license to a double serial number. This works fine, and the question is now, how can this be done for a CMX license? And the answer is yes, you can do this also for a CMX license if you know the serial number. Of course, for CMX licenses, the serial number is only known after you have done the first activation. So if the first activation needs to be done regularly with a ticket or on any other way, so you need a serial number that is well known by License Central, and then you can do, for example, any update. You can use the assign mechanism that is new in 2.10, and then you can say, okay, this update, for example, for the next year, I assign to serial number 128/ and so on, and then this is assigned to this serial number. And one additional question, can the WOP server host a WAN license? So being the server for a network license, and if so, what communication channels are used? Well, maybe not everyone is aware of CM1, which is a protocol that was introduced with version 5.0, if I remember correct. This makes it possible to have a CodeMeter network server placed somewhere in the internet, and then to serve the network licenses via HTTPS. And so this is possible in general. So on the client side, you add some string to your CodeMeter server search list, or you put it directly into your application, and then the CodeMeter runtime does not use a local the local system or a network system in your local area. Then it connects over the internet to this CM1 server. In general, it is possible that WOPs can serve such a WAN server, but this is quite different service. Serving CodeMeter License Central for activation of licenses, this is done one time by the user. then he uses the license for 2 weeks, and then he may get some additional units, and he gets back and does an update of his license. But it is not critical. If the server is down, the CodeMeter license is not available for some reason, he can work with this application. You only need it for the activation process. If we would host, or if we are hosting CM1 as a service, then this needs to be available all around the time with, let's say, 100% availability. So every time the hosting server is not available, is not performing well, then your user cannot use it. Therefore, this is needs more attendance from our side, and so this needs is a higher fee for having this. So serving CM1 licenses is not part of the CodeMeter license hosting. Of course, it's a different thing. We can offer this, but this is not cheap. You may ask your sales representative for pricing. And maybe the last question for today: how can I hold own applications without access to the command level to the core? Yes, we have spoken in the dedicated server edition. You have the possibility to have some individual piece of software. This is some software where we get an installation guide, where we do the installation here, and then this is running. So this is some piece of software service. For example, we have customers that have an additional a license portal where they are doing additional things that are not covered by CodeMeter License Central itself. And so there has been developed some additional web pages that are using partly the web services of the CodeMeter License Central and partly are storing some additional data in a second database. And such a web application can be hosted on the already used dedicated server. And in such a case, of course, we need to get the installation advice of this, and we need also to know how to support this tool. So most times this is something that is developed by our own, by Wibu-Systems professional services, or is at minimum supported by them to support the ISV on developing this application. Okay, I think these have been the questions for today. Hopefully you got some new ideas, you got also some answers on your questions. If you have additional answers, don't hesitate to contact us. Use all our possible contact forms, phone, whatever. Send us an email, contact your salesperson. They will forward this to the technical staff if there are some additional questions. We want again to thank you for your audience and wish you a pleasant day. Have a nice day from me.
Also, thank you from my side, and thanks for your patience.